Avaya has changed my life.
Avaya has made me the woman I am today.
Avaya is my home.
Avaya is personal freedom.
Avaya is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about Avaya.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, Avaya, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Avaya University. My name is Tara Brooke, and I am the Director of Contemporary Christian Education. Thank you for joining us. So today, I'm excited to talk with Jessika Fuhrmaneck on how to return to purpose after experiencing trauma or loss. Jessika is a writer, public speaker, and actor who has been a dedicated advocate for the support and recovery of women who have been exploited in the commercial sex trade. She is a member of the Speakers Bureau for Treasures Ministry, as well as Nola Brantley Speaks, which are survivor-led organizations designed to bring awareness, resources, and empowerment to victims of human trafficking and exploitation. Jessika's focus is to help hurting people get from where they are to where they want to be. Jessika, thank you so much for being here.
I'm so glad to be here.
We're so happy to have you. So Jessika, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, I'll just start with the tough stuff. So I'm a trauma survivor myself. As far as I can tell, I have developed over the years from complex trauma. I've developed what they call complex PTSD from compounded trauma. And so I've survived childhood abuse, and I've survived a divorce, and I have survived cancer and exploitation as well. And so I was able to, and given the opportunity to give back to a certain community of human trafficking survivors. And over the last decade or so, I've learned a lot about how trauma plays itself out. A lot of trauma comes from relationships, and then sometimes the abused becomes the abuser. So a lot of what I talk about in my book and at different events is how to bring yourself to a healthy, balanced place, because I don't want to become the abuser. I want to make sure I can invite good, safe relationships and then be a safe person for others.
Awesome. So where does this passion come from to help hurting people find their God-given purpose?
I survived exploitation over the course of about a decade, starting at a really young age. Actually, I would be defined as CSEC, and that means that someone exploited me under the age of 18. So I'm not going to go into all the details of that, but you can read all about exploitation and the commercial sex trade and all the horrors of that. But what happened is once so many people helped me to be removed from this bad life. And all those people helped me without asking anything of me. And when I was in a safe place, thriving and living free and all the things you dream about, making my life all those things, I just could not sit with the idea that there were all these thousands of people still out there being harmed and traumatized and exploited, and in some cases trafficked. And so for me, it was just, I have got to just turn my hand around and offer it and say, hey, if you're still out there, I will be a point of contact for you to try to get you to other resources. And the way I used to do that is through other.orgs that I still partner with. But over time, I started to see little gaps in what services were offered. And so we launched, I wrote my book, and then we launched from pain to purpose.org. And we try to fill some of those gaps. And we can talk more about that if you want to.
Yeah, I did want to talk about your book, From Pain to Purpose. It's really cool because normally books are set up in chapters, but yours is set up in sessions. So you have 12 sessions. So explain a little bit about how that works.
Well, the reason that I've labeled them as sessions is because the book is almost a program. And I lived it out. So just to show you, this is this little book. You can get it everywhere online, Amazon, wherever, Barnes and Noble. And I set it out in sessions. I lived it out over the course of a year. So what happened to me is I had done years of recovery, just so you can see the sessions and what they look like right there. I had done years of recovery and it was effective. And it was mental, emotional, spiritual recovery. But at the end of years of doing all the programs, and I did mostly all the Christian ones, and I won't name them all, but I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. So, and they're named in the book, and I recommend them. But I felt at the end of it like I couldn't remember who I was. So through experiencing difficult, abusive relationships and then other traumatizing events, I just couldn't remember what I came here for. What was the point? Who am I? What do I do? And so I let go of everything. I let go of all the dreams. And I think that's the first session, like, let it go, let it go. Because you got to clear because we hold on so hard to what we're trying to achieve, whether it be, getting a husband, having a child, any kind of relationship. And you have to just open the hands and be like, okay. And then let God start to remind you, this is who you are. This is who you actually were meant to be. So I spent a whole year and I journaled everything. And then at the end of it, realized it was a book, and was fortunate enough to have an amazing publisher come in and take over and help me make that a book that you could read and not just a mess in my journal.
Yeah.
God for that team.
Yeah, that's amazing.
But I would sum it all up in one thing by saying I learned to understand my identity the way that God sees me. And I'm now operating everything from that place.
I love that. And I think it's really cool that you started out as a journal. That's interesting. So, but there was a couple of sessions that really stood out to me. And one of them, honestly, was the first one that I want to talk about is the session 3. And I talk about exercise, because I'm a huge exercise person. I honestly, I feel like when I exercise, when I'm out on my own, if I'm out on a run or whatever, I'm listening to a podcast, my favorite sermon or Christian music or whatever, I feel like those are the moments that I'm very present and I can actually open up my brain or my mind to actually have some space for the Holy Spirit to come and speak to me, and I think as women or anybody these days, it's just everybody's so busy and you've got so much going on in your mind all the time and you can't, focus on anything else, and you wonder why you don't hear from God. Well, there's no space. There's nowhere for him to talk to you because there's so much else going on. So when I go out and exercise and, tax myself a little bit or whatever, and I've been running for a little while, all of a sudden I'll get these great ideas and inspiring things that come to me. And I know they're coming from the Holy Spirit. Where else would they be coming from, So I love that you have a whole session about that, because it is important, I think.
I'd love to dig into that for 45 seconds or so.
Yeah.
90 seconds or so. So a lot of what we endorse, I always have trouble finding the right word, promote, at FromPainToPurpose.org is recovery/therapy through movements. So I found, after I did all the programs, all the talk therapy, and I'm not against any of those things, I'm for everything that works. I found that when I started doing equine therapy, which is with horses, movement with horses, I started doing Krav Maga, which is self-defense. I started doing, I'm acting all out, such an actor. I started doing running, biking. I looked up what helps PTSD, and it was fight training, bike riding, running, equine therapy, movement. And then I started receiving these recovery therapies, and I realized one session of equine therapy equaled 10 hours of talk. And I made the connection, and it has been made. A lot of the recovery programs that we endorse have been being used by veterans. Unfortunately, trafficking survivors and other trauma survivors in the commercial sex trade, it has been noted in the field that they're experiencing PTSD at a level similar to a combat soldier. So that's what's coming at you when you're trying to, live your life and have relationships and be healthy and not be a toxic person. And in the morning, I do my journaling thing. I set my intentions. I do gratitude. Gratitude. If you take anything away from this thing, this whole seminar, this whole half hour with me, just find gratitude and everything else will fall into place. That's a whole nother speech, but little note of that, write that one thing down. But anyway, so movement, everything that you just described is completely accurate. And so movement is a part of my daily routine, whether it be, weight training, riding a horse, running, because it is in that space that you are going to find clearing and then clarity, and then you're going to hear truth. Because what I have noticed is that the Spirit of God, the voice of God, is truth. All these other things that happen, thoughts, people talking at you, abusive relationships, lies. If you can walk away, you can hear truth, you're going to recenter. It's going to take you from pain to purpose. I hate to be cliche about it, but that is exactly what it is.
Yeah. And I feel like too, when people hear negative thoughts and they're trying to say that it's like coming from a place that it's not, if you hear something negative, it's the enemy talking to you. It is not God. God is never going to tell you anything that's going to make you feel bad about yourself.
No truth can be destroyed, and no truth would harm you. It might wake you up. It might shake you. You might experience some sifting and filtering, but those are good things. Those are progress on your way to purpose. I was listening to a podcast a couple months ago, and she said something that really helped me in regards to negative thinking. She was like, look, here comes negative thoughts. This way, that way, they come through, pass by, but they're not actually yours. You don't actually own them. You didn't create them. You're not this evil creator of negative thinking. It's not your fault. It's not your responsibility. Just plug back into your source and don't get attached to it. Like, don't carry shame of, I thought a negative thought. That really helped me, because it's like, it's not my fault. All these thoughts, not my fault. No shame.
Mm-hmm. And another thing, when you talk about in session 8, actually about self-esteem, that kind of ties in with that, because so much of our self-esteem is affected by our thoughts. So, if you're thinking negative things about yourself, obviously your self-esteem is going to be in the tank. So, you gave some good ideas on how to turn some things around. When somebody's saying, when you're saying something in your head that's bad, turn it around to make it positive, and keep doing that every day, because it's a process. It's not something that's just going to happen overnight.
Yes. You could be me speaking. We didn't even need me. Tara's got it. I would love to drill down on this again for another 9 seconds. So everything you say is amazing. And then we have to add in relationships. And so I won't use the word survived. I survived the California family court system, which I was in for 13 years, dealing with divorce/custody. No one should be managing divorce and custody over the course of 13 years. We should find resolution long before that. And so what I discovered was that, there's your own negative thoughts and your own negative thinking. Put that over here. We can manage that, work through that, do our morning jogs. But then you've got others who you are either forced into a relationship with, or who are an old relationship that you're trying to dial out of, which can't always. There's kids, there's family. And in session 8, we get really serious about that. And it's about boundaries. The reality is this. I've gone through session 1 through 7. I've become the healthiest version of me, but I still have ex-husband, bully, abuser, whomever, every day sending me aggressive text messages, hateful emails. Just even if it's not even that aggressive, if it's just saying something about you that's not true and doesn't match the identity that God has told you and that you understand to be who you really are, is dangerous. So if I listen to my bullies and their words every day or every week or every month, I will never be able to really fully be healthy, which is the opposite of toxic mentality. So there comes a point where you just have to say, I am no longer going to talk to you. And so for me, that looked like blocking. And I, not to tell anyone to break the law, but I went against court order and blocked the emails from my ex-husband, because you're court ordered to talk, to keep the lines of communication open. And I was like, look, you can come at me, judge, but I'm blocking this email, okay? Because it's not going to work for me. You know what I mean? And if I'm healthy and I have self-esteem and I have self-worth and I'm safe, then my child benefits from that. So yeah, session 8, get rid of the negative thinking, but also disinvite relationships that are never going to function. It's okay. And then after that, start looking around your community and your people and your groups and find people who are healing, loving, speak truth. Start to invite space for them. Invite them into your space.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think about how forgiveness is such a huge thing in Christianity because, we were forgiven, we have to forgive others. So, the people that have been toxic in your life, your ex-husband, for example, anybody that's really like affected you in a negative way, we have to learn ways to forgive them. Even if you don't really feel like forgiving them, forgiveness is more of a choice than a feeling. And the feelings kind of come after you've accepted the fact that you're forgiving them. So, I think that is something that you talked about in session 7 of your book was forgiveness and how important that is. So do you want to expound on that a little bit?
I will. This is a tough one. Yeah. So I'm going to say a bunch of things nobody's used to hearing. I'm going to hopefully set a couple people free in this moment. Hopefully. So, Tara, I hear you saying we have to forgive. First of all, as a survivor of abuse and trauma, I just want to say, I don't have to do anything. If I'm in this fiery moment where I just found X, Y, and Z out, maybe today is not the day that I have to do anything.
True.
So I want to step away from have to, should, because it puts weight on the trauma survivor. And it puts us in, sometimes in a place of codependency. We want to step into a place of interdependency, which is a little bit more powerful for us as the individual. And so what I found in regards to forgiveness is that I simply couldn't do it for quite some time. I just had a lot of fire rolling around in my head. So I stopped trying to make myself forgive. That was step 1. Just ease up. Be mad today. If you let anger unfold, it'll pass because you can't really stay at that level of concentration forever. It's exhausting, anger. And then you'll step into the next space, which will be above anger, which will be something more peaceful, step by step by step, I say, with emotions. So once you can feel and catch your breath, what I did is exactly what you described. I actually had no feelings of forgiveness for certain people. That didn't come for like 1 or 2 years. Now everybody's different, so I don't want to ruin y'all's dreams, but it might not come for a minute. And it might, everybody's different, but I'm a stubborn one. So it was like years for me. So what I did is I would just literally dozens of times a day, I would say, I forgive so-and-so for doing X, Y, Z. And this was happening dozens of times a day for weeks, for months, for years. I didn't have any feeling of forgiveness, but it came later. I took action that didn't match my feelings. Feelings are very important. They're an indicator, but we really cannot follow them all the way to the grave. We decide where we're going to go, who we're going to be, how we're going to define the situation. So yeah, I agree. If you keep saying, I forgive so-and-so for X, Y, and Z for however long, you eventually will stop being unforgiving. I actually don't, all of the things that sort of came to this book and these sessions, all of the pain and the relational pain that happened that inspired and sparked this book writing, it's gone. I don't have any of it. I'm not harboring any of it. If I see a picture of my ex on Facebook, or if I get a text from someone relating to that ex and that story, I actually feel complete peace. But I did choose to walk out these 12 sessions and steps in this program. I did intentionally choose to keep doing it over and over and over and over. But if you choose forgiveness, then you will be able to walk toward your purpose. And also you're going to find that next, a healthy relationship winds up on your plate because you emptied your plate. No one can come into your space if your space is filled with anger and unforgiveness. A nice, let's just talk about me as a girl dating. A nice, happy guy can't really sit in that space with me, right? He needs me to first forgive the past, so then we can have our new fresh space that feels safe to both people.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because I mean, forgiveness, if you harbor hatred or whatever for a certain person, all it does is hurt you really in the long run. I think once you can forgive, you're finally set free from that. So
Yeah. You do it for a limited time. So be free to be mad,
right.
but don't live mad for your life, because your life will stop there.
Yeah.
That forgiveness is the fastest path to your personal freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good. So how can focusing on balance and purpose, which is what your book's all about, how is that going to heal our relationships and cultivate a healthy community?
Well, I started practicing this thing that I learned. I listen to so many podcasts and so many teachers. I'm a learner, as they say, and I like to share it. But I started noticing that I'm balanced. I'm purposed. I sort of like freed myself, right? So I'm like living in a place of freedom, living on purpose, doing the things I want to do. And I noticed that then choices happen. So I'm going to get invited to new relationships. I'm going to get invited to new other things too, job opportunities, not just relationship. They're all overlapping. And I realized that in walking into these new invitations, I know who I am now. Look, I understand my identity. Look, this is Jessika Fuhrmaneck, right? Like this is me. I'm a storyteller. I guess I'm a healer. I don't know what word to use here. So I am my identity. I'm good. I'm kind. I'm loving. I'm fierce. Like all the things that I know that I am. So when a relationship comes in my space and says, "Hey, I invite you," I ask myself, does this relationship, is it in line with all my purposes? Is it in line with my identity? Is it in line with truth? And I started asking myself, is it yes or is it no? And everything started to become a big fat yes or a big fat no. And it becomes easier once you're operating from a place of balance, right? Because you've done the work, session 1 through 7. And when you're operating from that place where you know your identity, you know your purpose, things are big fat yeses and big fat nos. And I no longer like I'm still single, so I date so much and I don't enjoy it. Although I do enjoy some dates. So I'm no longer as confused as I used to be. If there's a guy who's like a 7 out of 10, 7 is the most frustrating number, I think, because 8, 9, 10 is a big fat yes. 7 is a big fat maybe, and maybe is so distracting. And then below, big fat no's are easy too. It's the big fat maybes that slow you down. But now I no longer have to sit in big fat maybes, because I don't have to do a relationship for 2 months or 2 years to figure out that it's a no. Maybe is no. Maybe is no, in case that's not sinking in. Maybe is no. Yes is yes, maybe is no, no is no. So I no longer have to, it could take me 2 weeks, 2 days, 2 dates. And I'm like, oh, this is actually a no for my purpose, for aligning in a partnership. And it doesn't have to be dating. I don't talk about dating because that's just what I know, but it could be family relationships. It could be, there are big fat no family relationships. I have family members who are not safe and have never been for decades. And so they might shoot me an email and say, oh, I miss you. I wish the family could get together. I don't have to respond. I can ignore the question I was asked. I can just say, oh, happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for reaching out. I can redirect to where it feels safe to me. Because sometimes things that we have some commitment to are not going to be a yes in every category. So I'm happy to send those holiday cards, the happy birthday card, to wish you Merry Christmas by email, but it's not going to be a yes for intimate inner circle relationship. So it can, our yeses and our nos have circles, but once you get to a place of balance, health, purpose, physically, mentally, spiritually, your yeses will come so much faster because you can identify them quick.
Yeah, and it makes total sense, because I mean, when you think about it, people are always telling you can't really have a healthy relationship unless you're healthy with yourself and all that. And it's really true. I mean, you really do have to be able to connect with yourself and know what you really do want and what you really don't want in order to be able to have those clear yeses and nos.
Yes. Yes. See, you could teach this, Tara. I'm telling you.
I figured it out. No, it's all you. Well, I tell you what, we are getting a little bit short on time. So I definitely want to remind everybody that there's a couple of buttons that are below the video. So when you click on them, they're going to take you to a free gift and a special offer that Jessika has for you. So Jessika, you want to tell everybody what those are?
Because what we're going to do is just for this seminar conference, for healing toxic relationships through a Christian lens, if you go ahead and send us, just sign up for our mailing list on from paintopurpose.org, which is CPO. If you just let us know that you heard this session from this healing toxic relationships through a Christian lens, we will go ahead and give you one free coaching session. Coaching sessions are $100 an hour. So this is a very beautiful gift. Please don't miss it. Please send us your request. I'm excited to work with you. Most people choose one of the 12 sessions to focus in on for their hour-long coaching session. So you can do that if you want to download the book. I think that link is there too. Mm-hmm. So you can, if you, it's like $12, $13. You can get it on Kindle for like $6 or something. If you want to do that and give that a quick review, it will help us better coach you. Just so you know. But you don't have to. We'll still do it either way.
That's awesome. Thank you for offering those to the viewers. That's super generous. And also, doesn't your book, when you pay for your book, doesn't it go towards?
So yeah, when you read the back cover, you will see this is my first solo book. I've co-authored with doctors and others over the years. And then this was the first one I did all on my own. And I had decided to dedicate it completely, the proceeds, to human trafficking survivors.
That's awesome.
So I'm receiving no gains financially from this project, which was 7 years in the making, by the way. So this is quite the commitment of my heart. And I hope it blesses you guys. So just so you know, even if you never read this book, just order it, because all of the proceeds, order it and give it to a friend, whatever you need to do, Christmas gifts. I have a lot of fans that do Christmas gifts, so we get a lot of orders at Christmas time. And just know that we put all of the funds into a benevolence fund. And then my .org, from paintopurpose.org, all of those proceeds go towards making all of our trauma survivor services free for them, so they never have to pay for services ever through my .org.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Well, thank you, Jessika, for sharing your insights with us today. It's been a great, great interview. So do you have any other words of wisdom to share with our viewers before we wrap it up?
I think the biggest thing that we can all do as humans is, in every situation, whether it be dangerous or safe or anything, is just quiet yourself and connect, plug into God, because the Spirit of God is going to tell you your next step. It's going to tell you this isn't safe. It's going to give you an inspired action. And if you can trust your intuition, which I believe is the Holy Spirit, whatever word you like to use there, insert it, whatever you feel comfortable with. If you can just trust that, you can get through any kind of recovery. You can get into any kind of purpose and direction. This is where everything comes from. This one thing, just the Spirit of God, and being open to hearing it and saying, okay, I will do it.
Yeah, awesome. Great, great. Well, thank you, Jessika. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We'll see you again soon.
Avaya has changed my life.
Avaya has made me the woman I am today.
Avaya is my home.
Avaya is personal freedom.
Avaya is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about Avaya.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, Avaya, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaya is what the world needs.